Hi, how's it going? My name is John Sellers, and I work with Greenpeace. And I'm going to be doing a presentation for Earth Day by the request of some students from Gallaudet University on taking individual responsibility for environmental issues. I've been the director of the grassroots office in Washington, D.C. for Greenpeace for about 3 years now, and I get an opportunity to do some speaking engagements. I always think it's really inspiring and empowering for me to get to speak with the public. It gives me a chance to talk about my own, sort of emotional commitment with Greenpeace. I usually get pretty emotional when I'm on the stage. And it's also a real chance to spread, a little bit of knowledge, but mostly a commitment to taking responsibility for our environment. That's something that I feel really strongly about. I may mention the word Kwakiutl in reference to a Native American nation up in the Pacific Northwest that had some connections with Greenpeace. And I'm really looking forward to working with you today, and I hope everything goes real smoothly. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a real honor to be speaking before your group. I'm delighted that you invited me here to talk about the history of Greenpeace and the power of bearing witness. A lot of people consider Greenpeace to be a bunch of radical hippies saving the whales, but many people don't know that we actually got our start on environmentalism confronting a much greater injustice, the injustice of nuclear testing by the United States government. Greenpeace was founded back in 1971 up in Vancouver, Canada, by a group of Americans and Canadians. At that time, the United States was testing nuclear weapons below the surface of an island called Amchitka. Amchitka is one of the Aleutian Islands, which trail down off the coast of Alaska, and it lies some 2,500 miles due west of Vancouver, Canada. Back in the late 1960s, early 1970s, the U.S. government created a huge tunnel underneath Amchitka and placed multi-kiloton nuclear weapons in that tunnel to conduct nuclear tests. After the first test was detonated, the Richter scales in Vancouver in Western Canada registered an earthquake of around 6.4, and so many people in Canada were very concerned about continued testing by the U.S. government. There were huge rallies all over Western Canada, thousands of people marching through the streets of Vancouver holding signs. Actually, some of the borders between the United States and Canada were shut off by protests. But these protests fell on deaf ears, as most of the decisions were being made way back in Washington, D.C. by bureaucrats and folks in the Pentagon. The tests never subsided. And it wasn't until a small group of people, calling themselves originally the Don't Make a Wave Society, decided to take direct action that anything really substantive came about. They were calling themselves the Don't Make a Wave Society because many people feared that because Amchitka lies on an earthquake fault line in the middle of the ocean, that these massive explosions underground would trigger huge earthquakes and tidal waves, and that those tidal waves would have the possibility of wiping out Vancouver. Thank goodness they changed their name a little on down the road to Greenpeace. I don't know whether I'd be working today, 20 years later, for the Don't Make a Wave Society, but I'm pleased to be working for Greenpeace. I don't think it's an accident that we were given the name Greenpeace, combining two of the most powerful images, one of ecology and one of peace and disarmament, into one very powerful symbol, something that states that disarmament is an ecological issue, that war is damaging to the environment as well as human life. And so Greenpeace was born.
I forgot what else he said there.
Greenpeace was founded by